Ladies and gentlemen, stop everything you're doing. Because the rap world just handed us a confession so raw, so wild, so dripping with loyalty and chaos that it makes the Kardashians look like a family therapy session on PBS Kids. 50 Cent has finally spilled the tea about Eminem and Proof's friendship. And it's not just some Hallmark card bromance. Oh no, this confession feels like it was pulled straight out of a gangster Bible with footnotes from 8 Mile. We're talking about the moment 50 realized that Eminem and Proof weren't just rap buddies. Sharing studio time, they were blood brothers in spirit. Ride or die partners who could have written the dictionary definition of loyalty. And 50? He's confessing details so juicy, so dramatic. You'll swear he was holding onto this secret like Beyonce holds onto unreleased tracks. This isn't a story about music. It's about survival, betrayal, and proof, no pun intended, that loyalty in hip-hop isn't just rare. It's damn near extinct. And when 50 Cent opens his mouth about Eminem and Proof, the rap world listens, memes ignite, and suddenly every rapper is rethinking who's really got their back. So buckle up. The confession that 50 just dropped doesn't just honor a friendship, it flips the entire rap game's definition of brotherhood. When 50 Cent talks, the rap world doesn't just listen, it leans in like grandma hearing neighborhood gossip through the screen door. And this time, Curtis Jackson didn't just drop a casual comment. He unloaded a confession that hit harder than one of his early mixtapes. Because when the subject is Eminem and Proof, the bond that kept Shady grounded and the streets talking, 50's words carried the weight of history, loyalty, and a truth nobody was ready for. To understand why this confession shook the industry, you've got to rewind. Back before Eminem was selling out stadiums, before 50 was turning vitamin water into liquid gold, there was Proof, the heartbeat of Detroit hip-hop. If Eminem was the lightning, Proof was the thunder. He wasn't just Marshall Mathers' hype man. He was the anchor, the consigliere, the friend who made sure Eminem didn't drown in the tidal wave of fame. And 50? He had a front row seat to this brotherhood, watching the two move with a loyalty that made most rap crews look like they were held together with duct tape. Fast forward to now. 50 is confessing the exact moment he realized that Em and Proof weren't just close. They were inseparable. According to Fifth, it wasn't about the music, the shows, or the platinum plaques. It was about survival. Proof was the guy who would swing before Em even registered the threat. Proof was the one who turned studio sessions into war rooms and parties into battlegrounds if anyone stepped wrong. And in 50's eyes, that wasn't just friendship, it was family forged in fire. The way 50 described it, you'd think Proof had been carved into Eminem's DNA. When I saw how far Proof would go for Em, 50 admitted, that's when I knew this wasn't rap. This was deeper. And just like that, the internet exploded. Fans weren't just reacting. They were spiraling into full-on emotional breakdowns. Twitter lit up with sob stories. TikTok cranked out tributes. And YouTube filled with teary-eyed commentators replaying old Eminem Proof interviews like they were sacred scripture. And of course, the memes came flying in. One viral post showed Proof photoshopped as Eminem's literal body armor. Another compared their loyalty to Batman and Alfred, except Alfred wasn't a butler. He was ready to knock out anyone who looked at Batman sideways. The internet doesn't do subtlety, and this confession gave meme makers all the fuel they needed. But it wasn't just fans. Rappers weighed in too, each one trying to outdo the other in showing respect for the Shady Proof bond. Roystuff59 hopped on Instagram to remind everyone that Proof was Detroit's backbone, saying, "Without Proof, none of this would exist." Snoop Dogg, never one to miss a moment of cultural commentary, posted a throwback pic of Proof and Em, captioning it with "Real ones recognize real ones." Even newer artists chimed in, claiming the confession reminded them how fake their own entourages felt in comparison. And let's not forget the chaos this confession stirred up in the industry's darker corners. Suddenly, every rapper was side-eyeing their crew like, "Would y'all really write for me? Or would you just record it on live?" Proof had set a bar so high, half the industry realized their so-called loyalty contracts were written in disappearing ink. But here's where it gets juicier. Some people weren't buying 50's timing. Why confess this now? Why drag up this story in the middle of his relentless trolling of Ja Rule, Rick Ross, and anyone else dumb enough to breathe in his direction? Conspiracy theorists had a field day. One camp argued that 50 was setting the stage for a new Eminem project, using Proof's memory to prime the culture. Another camp swore it was Fifth's way of reminding people that his loyalty to M has always been bulletproof. Unlike the shaky alliances we see in today's rap beefs, regardless of motive, the confession worked to hijack the conversation. Podcasts went into overdrive, with every host trying to squeeze meaning out of 50's words. This shows what hip-hop used to be about, some said. Proof is the definition of loyalty. Rappers today don't have that. Meanwhile, others argued that Fifth was low-key shading the new generation by highlighting how rare Em and Proof's brotherhood really was, and the public ate it up like it was the season finale of Power. People weren't just moved, they were obsessed. Comment sections turned into loyalty tests. Name one friend who would fight for you like Proof fought for Em. Fans demanded. TikTok was full of videos captioned, "Where's my Proof?" Half heartfelt, half meme. It was messy, emotional, and hilarious all at once. But let's not get it twisted. This wasn't just nostalgia. This was a reminder, brutal, raw, and sarcastically obvious, that most rap friendships crumble under pressure faster than a Kardashian marriage. In a game where betrayal is as common as auto-tune, 50's confession hit like a sledgehammer. Proof wasn't just Eminem's hype man. He was the rarest thing in hip-hop. A friend who didn't flinch, didn't fold, and didn't fake it. And the more people reacted, the clearer it became that this wasn't just a story about Eminem and Proof. It was a mirror held up to the entire industry. A reminder that loyalty in rap is usually for sale, but sometimes, just sometimes, it's real. And when it is, it shakes the culture forever. But this was only the beginning of the chaos. Because once the confession hit maximum velocity online, it didn't just spark admiration. It sparked competition, controversy, and clapbacks, and rappers being rappers. It was only a matter of time before the tribute turned into a battlefield. If 50 Cent's confession started as a heartfelt tribute, the internet twisted it into a full-on blockbuster. Within hours, what was supposed to be a moment of respect turned into chaos, memes, and celebrity side commentary that made the VMAs look like a PDA meeting. First came the overreactions. Fans didn't just share their love for Proof and M, they went into meltdown mode. Twitter trended with hashtags like #RealFriendshipGoals and #BelikeProof, as if people thought loyalty could be ordered on Amazon Prime. TikTok creators were crying on camera, stitching videos of Eminem performing like toy soldiers while dramatically typing, "This is real friendship, not the fake vibes y'all give." It was Shakespeare, but with ring lights and auto captions. Then, of course, came the rappers who couldn't resist jumping in. Royce da 5'9", who actually was part of the circle, went online to say that Proof wasn't just M's shadow, he was Detroit's soul. He dropped a heartfelt tribute that fans actually respected, a rare feat in a culture where every post gets accused of cloud chasing. But not everyone could keep it classy. Cue the game. Because of course the game had to insert himself into the drama. He posted something vague about real loyalty vs. fake loyalty and how he'd been Proof for plenty of rappers. The internet laughed so hard it nearly broke. People replied with memes of Game photoshopped in the background of historical events, Game with Lincoln, Game at the Last Supper, Game as the third wheel to M and Proof. The man was roasted into oblivion before his post could hit its second hour. Snoop Dogg, on the other hand, played it smooth. He uploaded a throwback pic of M and Proof with the caption, "That's that real love, nephew." Short, sweet, and guaranteed to get 1 million likes. That's Snoop, no chaos, just cool uncle energy while he watches everyone else burn down the house. But it didn't stop there. Out of nowhere, Ja Rule, yes, Ja Rule, 50's eternal nemesis, slid into the conversation. He tweeted, "Funny how people talk about loyalty now." Fans didn't even let him finish. Within minutes, 50 had responded with memes, clowning him so hard Ja had to log off. The feud that refuses to die found its way into a tribute about M and Proof. If that's not proof, pun intended, that hip-hop runs on chaos, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, Fans started weaponizing 50's confession in the pettiest ways imaginable. Suddenly, every rapper with a messy entourage was getting dragged. "Where was your proof when things got real?" became the comment section's favorite insult. It didn't matter if the rapper was a chart topper or a SoundCloud rookie. If your crew wasn't fighting strangers on site, you failed the test. Proof became the gold standard of friendship, and everyone else looked like they were rolling with part-time interns. The memes were relentless. One viral video showed a clip of Eminem falling during a performance, with Proof photoshopped catching him like a superhero. Another had the caption, "When Proof said jump, Eminem asked, 'How high?'" TikTok creators reenacted imaginary scenarios: Proof fighting M's bullies, Proof saving M from spilling his spaghetti, Proof telling Slim Shady, "Don't worry, I got your back." It was messy, hilarious, and oddly touching all at once. But as the memes thrived, so did the outrage. Some fans accused 50 of exploiting Proof's name for clout. They argued the timing was too convenient, that Fifth only told the story now because it boosted his own brand of being the realist in the room. Conspiracy theorists claimed it was a calculated PR move to warm the ground for an Eminem comeback. Like Proof's legacy was being used as album promo, podcasters dove in like vultures. DJ Academics turned his stream into court TV. Shady Edition, replaying 50's words on loop while fans spammed comments about loyalty. Joe Budden ranted that today's rap friendships were plastic compared to M and Proof, calling out how most crews dissolve faster than a sugar cube in coffee. Napare hinted that he'd invite 50 onto Drink Champs to spill even more secrets. Because nothing drives ratings like old confessions repackaged as new tea, the outrage wasn't just online. The streets of Detroit buzzed with conversation. For the people who actually lived through Proof's rise, his death, and his role as Detroit's glue, 50's confession hit harder than a meme. It reopened wounds and reignited pride. Old heads called Proof the mayor of Detroit hip-hop, the guy who broke up fights before they turned deadly, the one who made sure M didn't lose himself literally. The city remembered, and for once, the internet chatter lined up with reality. But the industry, as always, smelled opportunity. Suddenly, blogs dusted off old Proof interviews. Streaming services boosted playlists labeled Shady Family Classics. Talk of a Proof documentary started circulating, with whispers that Netflix or Hulu was already circling like sharks. Fans debated whether it was tribute or exploitation. But one thing was clear: 50's confession had reignited Proof's name. And the machine wasn't going to waste the momentum, and in true Netflix drama fashion, the chaos fed into itself. Fans argued whether Proof's loyalty was truly unique, or if 50 was low-key shading his own enemies. Rappers argued whether they had their own proof. Comment sections exploded into wars over who was the most loyal crew in hip-hop history. Was it M and Proof, Pac and Outlaws, Jay and Dame before the fallout, Drake and 40? Everyone had an opinion, and everyone thought theirs was gospel. That's when the confession stopped being a tribute and became a measuring stick. Proof's loyalty wasn't just celebrated, it became weaponized. Fans used it to drag rappers. Rappers used it to flex. Media used it for clicks. And through it all, 50 Cent sat back, laughing, knowing he'd just hijacked the culture with one story. But here's the real twist: this wasn't even the wildest fallout. Because as the days turned into weeks, 50's confession didn't just honor Proof, it reshaped the way the industry talked about loyalty, legacy, and brotherhood. Proof wasn't just a man anymore. He was the symbol every rapper either aspired to have or feared being compared against. The storm didn't die down. If anything, it grew into a cultural aftershock that rippled through the entire rap game. Because when 50 Cent confesses something, it doesn't just live in one interview, it mutates, multiplies, and haunts the industry like a ghost that refuses to leave the studio. His words about Eminem and Proof's friendship became more than a tribute. They became a referendum on loyalty itself. And that's where the aftermath got messy. For Eminem, Proof's name has always been sacred. Proof wasn't just his hype man. He was the one who believed in him before the world did. But now, thanks to 50's confession, that private loyalty was dragged back into the spotlight. Fans flooded M's socials with comments like, "We miss Proof, and nobody will ever be your day one like him." What started as a heartfelt nod from 50 turned into public pressure on M, forcing him to relive old grief in front of millions. Then there was 50 himself. Some fans praised him, calling the confession one of his realest moments in years. Others accused him of timing it to fuel his constant need for headlines. 50 stays in the news, one critic tweeted. Even if it means digging up ghosts, the irony, they weren't wrong. 50's entire career has been built on knowing when to speak, when to troll, and when to drop a bomb that sends shockwaves. And whether you call it genuine or strategic, the confession worked. Meanwhile, other rappers quietly started reevaluating their own circles. Because Proof had suddenly become the measuring stick. Who in your crew would throw hands without thinking? Who would protect your legacy like it was their own? Who would stand by you, not just when you were famous, but when you were broke, hated, or on the verge of losing it all? Proof set the bar, and the uncomfortable truth was that most rappers couldn't name anyone in their circle who came close. The fallout extended to fans too. Suddenly, social media was filled with people comparing their friendships to M and Proof. Tweets like, "If your homie ain't Proof level loyal, cut him off." TikTok montages of best friends captioned, "Looking for my Proof." Instagram feeds filled with sentimental quotes about loyalty, all tagged to 50's confession. Proof's name wasn't just in the rap conversation anymore. It was everywhere. He went from a hip-hop legend to a universal symbol of what friendship was supposed to look like. But here's where it turned darker. The industry smelled blood in the water. Proof's legacy became content, repackaged and resold. Blogs wrote retrospectives. Streaming platforms boosted playlists. Old footage of Proof resurfaced and went viral. There were whispers of a Proof biopic in development, because nothing in this industry stays sacred once it trends. Fans argued over whether it was a tribute or exploitation, but the machine didn't care. The machine only counts streams, and in Detroit, the epicenter of this entire story, the aftermath hit the hardest. Proof wasn't just a symbol there, he was the symbol. His memory was already immortalized in murals and stories, but 50's confession reignited the fire. Locals spoke about him with renewed pride, calling him the mayor of Detroit hip-hop, the man who had protected not just Eminem, but the entire scene. Streets that had already felt the weight of his loss now felt both honored and wounded by his name trending for the world's entertainment. As for Eminem, his silence was deafening. He didn't need to say anything, his fans spoke for him. But that silence also left a vacuum, one that the media filled with speculation. Would he respond? Would he honor 50's confession with his own story? Or would he stay locked in his fortress of privacy? The longer he stayed quiet, the louder the noise got. And that silence only amplified the weight of 50's words. The aftermath proved one undeniable truth. 50's confession had turned Proof into a litmus test, a standard for loyalty that no one could match. It wasn't about bars, albums, or fame anymore. It was about trust, brotherhood, and the rare kind of bond that can't be bought, faked, or marketed. Proof wasn't just Eminem's friend. He was the friend every rapper wishes they had, and every fan wishes they could be. But it also revealed the darker underbelly of the culture. That loyalty like Proof's is so rare, it becomes mythologized. That the industry will spin even the purest bond into clicks, streams, and documentaries. And that fans, as much as they mourn, also turn grief into memes, hashtags, and content. Proof was both celebrated and consumed, his name immortalized and commodified all at once, and that, ultimately, is the tragic clarity of the aftermath. Eminem and Proof's friendship wasn't just a bond. It was an anomaly, something so real that when 50 Cent confessed it, the rap world didn't just listen, it exploded. Because deep down, everyone knows how rare it is, how fragile it is, and how easily it can be lost. So here we are, years after Proof's death, and his name still stirs the culture like no other. Not because of how he rapped, not because of how he dressed, but because of how he loved and how he stood. And thanks to 50 Cent's confession, that truth isn't buried in Detroit anymore, it's broadcasted worldwide. A reminder and a warning to an industry where loyalty is usually just another lyric. And there you have it. 50 Cent's shocking confession that ripped the lid off one of hip-hop's most legendary friendships. Eminem and Proof weren't just two guys from Detroit chasing dreams. They were brothers in a world that eats loyalty for breakfast and spits out betrayal before lunch. Proof wasn't a sidekick. He was the ride-or-die blueprint, the kind of friend rappers write about but rarely ever have. And thanks to 50, the whole world was reminded that loyalty this pure is rarer than a Kardashian skipping plastic surgery. But now the question is yours. Was 50 genuinely honoring his brother's memory? Or was this another Curtis Jackson masterclass in hijacking the spotlight? Was it tribute? Or was it strategy? You be the judge, because here at Truth Tattle, we don't hand out verdicts, we hand out scandals, sarcasm, and just enough exaggeration to make your grandma side-eye her news feed. And don't you dare click off without paying your dues. Smash that like button like it owes you back rent. Hit subscribe like you're breaking into the VIP section without a wristband. And ring that notification bell the way rappers ring their lawyers after a bad tweet. Because tomorrow, next week, next month, another confession, another scandal, another messy chapter will fall right into our lap. And you better believe Truth Tattle will be here to drag it into the spotlight, roast it, exaggerate it, and deliver it hotter than a beef track on release day. So keep your memes ready, your popcorn warm, and your loyalty tests sharp. Because in hip-hop, the truth doesn't bring peace, it brings chaos. This is Truth Tattle, where scandal gets louder and loyalty gets legendary.